I'm not going to lie, I don't want to talk about last night's game, so we're not going to. We're going to talk about goalies instead on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day every single day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also want to thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. And also let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Like I said, I don't really want to talk about last night's game. Sucked. I'm over it. They keep losing the same game over and over and over, and I feel a little bit like I'm in the Truman Show about it. But what I do want to talk about is goaltending, because, again, it's felt really egregious over the past 4 games, right, of this team scores goals when Elvis is in goal and doesn't score goals when Jet is in goal. And I wanted to look into, is this me remembering things wrong? Is this me kind of over remembering more recent games? And, you know, because they stand out, right? Like, and we'll get into those 4 games that have just been played in a second here. Or does the team actually play differently in front of its goalies? Do they create more offense for Elvis, or do they just score more goals for him? Do they create less offense when Jet is in there, etc., right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to start by looking kind of at the team picture. So, you know, the actual team stats of, you know, how many goals are they scoring and allowing, how many shots and how many shot attempts, etc. And then we're going to pull that apart and be like, right, okay, well, what's it look like for this goalie? What's it look like for this goalie? Because the short answer to this question, do the team play different in front of either goalie, is yes. The long answer is yes, but there's some weirdness going on. So I want to get into all of that. So we're going to start by looking, again, just kind of at the team as a whole. It might get a little crunchy this episode, but please stay with me. I will try to make it as clear and easy to understand as possible. So far this season, the Columbus Blue Jackets are 13-11-6. They have 32 points. They are last in the Eastern Conference. They are 13th. They are last in the Metropolitan Division. They are 13th in the Eastern Conference. They have a goal differential of -12. They have 91 goals for and 103 goals against. What this means is, well, the very, very simple answer is that this team is allowing more goals than they score, which I don't think is a surprise to anyone, right? They are also being outshot in their games. So 912 shots for, 945 against. So they're being outshot. They've got about a -30 on goal differential, which is not that bad, if we're being honest. And then in terms of shot attempts, 1866 shot attempts for, 1891 shot attempts against. Again, not really, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, that's like 1 shot attempt per game difference. You know, and that does average out to, okay, goals for per game, 2.9. Goals against per game, 3.4. So they're allowing about half a goal more per game than they are scoring, which I think we all knew. They are being outshot 30-32 on average over 30 games, and they are being out-attempted 63-62 per game. So pretty even, right? That all makes sense. And again, the fact that they are scoring less than expected. They were saving more than expected, but I don't know if that's changed since the excitement of the last 4 games, by which I mean they've forgotten how to score entirely and also have allowed a bunch of goals. So far this season, the stats I'm using right now are on hockeyviz.com. I'm going to be using numbers that I've pulled from Natural Stat Trick later. So those are the 2 sites I'm using. They're my favorite ones. I find they're the easiest to use. I love the way that Micah's graphs and like data visuals work. And so hockeyviz.com is the first place I go if I want to look at a stat. So according to Micah, the Blue Jackets are scoring about 7 goals less than they should be. So they've scored 85 goals as of December 10th. Yeah. Which I think is means that they haven't updated last night's goals yet, but that's fine because it's negligible. They're supposed to have scored 92 goals. They've actually scored 85 or 87 goals. In terms of saving, they have scored 97 goals and they were supposed to allow 94 and a half goals. So they are scoring they've scored 7 goals less than they should have, and they've saved 2.5 goals more than they should have. This is a pretty neat flip of last season where they were scoring way above their expected metrics and also saving way below. So if I can just flip to last season's for a second, they scored 253 goals. They were supposed to score 214. So they scored basically 40 goals more than they should have last season. And they also allowed 10 more goals than they should have last season. So again, it's been a real flip for the Blue Jackets in terms of they've figured out how to get their underlying stats be good, and their actual scoring has just kind of taken a nosedive, which we knew, right? I'm not telling anyone anything they didn't know, right? Their underlying stats are better. They are scoring less goals, and that is the real problem right now. I know that we talk a big game about how, Elvis needs to be better and how the defense is leaky and, etc. But as it stands right now, the Blue Jackets are a better team than they were last season. Now, I will say that the stats are going kind of heading in the wrong direction. I feel like every time I look at these, the stats get just a little bit worse, which is not great. Their 5-on-5 defense specifically has taken a little bit of a dip, but their 5-on-5 offense continues to improve. Penalty kill is improving. Power play is getting worse. The power play is scoring more, but is creating less offense. So I think probably that just means that it's kind of equalizing. But what I want to talk about is not the power play. What I want to talk about, excuse me, is the goaltending. So just to recap before we move on, take a quick break, and then I'll get into the Elvis numbers. The Blue Jackets right now are scoring 2.9 goals a game and allowing 3.4 goals a game. They are being outshot on average 32-30, and they're being out attempted on average 63-62. So again, they are scoring less than they're supposed to. They're allowing more goals than they're supposed to, but the actual numbers of shots and shot attempts are basically just below even. In terms of expected goals so far this season, they are expected, they've created 98 expected goals, or 98.5 expected goals. Again, so they've scored, 10 goals less than they were supposed to, according to Natural Stat Trick, and then they have allowed 5 goals more than they were supposed to, which is where the discrepancy is coming in, is that they're scoring less than they're supposed to and they're allowing more than they're supposed to, which is really, really frustrating. But let's take a quick break, and then I want to get into the Elvis numbers versus the Jet numbers. So we'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And we all know, live betting is the best when the game starts to shift, right? A receiver is getting hot suddenly, defense tightens up, a turnover happens, and the momentum just flips completely in the other direction. And FanDuel is going to let you jump into all of those moments. Their live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Their player props update as guys are actively heating up or cooling down. And you can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more, which keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day, and thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everyday Club today and get Locked On Blue Jackets with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonbluejackets.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Let's talk about Elvis. I'm going to pull up my numbers real quick because I did track all of this data by hand this morning before recording. So Elvis has played in 12 games so far this season. While Elvis has been in net, the Blue Jackets have scored 47 goals and allowed 48 goals. However, one of those is an empty netter. So according to these numbers that I have crunched, Elvis is coming out basically net even in terms of the goals that are scored and the goals that are allowed. He is allowing 3.91 goals a game, and the Blue Jackets are scoring 4 goals a game. However, again, with that empty net taken out, it evens out into 3.9 goals per game, for and against. In terms of shots on goal, the Blue Jackets with Elvis in net have 336 shots for and 409 against, which evens out to 28-34, which means that when Elvis is in goal, the Blue Jackets are being outshot 34-28, so a +6 or a -6 shot differential. They are also being out-attempted. They have on average 65 shot attempts for and 58 shot attempts. 65 shot attempts against and 58 shot attempts for. So again, they are allowing, math. They are allowing 7 shot attempts more per game than they are creating with Elvis in net. All of this kind of lines up to vaguely what I thought, which is that Elvis is allowing a lot more goals, but also he's getting more goals. And we'll get into Jets numbers in a second here. But Elvis is basically taking advantage of a lot of run support. And what I mean by that is, I've talked about run support on the show before, but what I mean by that is when Elvis gives up a lot of goals, the team typically scores a lot of goals as well. So in that, what I found was I looked up to see, okay, well, how many times has Elvis allowed more than 3 goals? How many times has he allowed less than that? How many times has the team scored more than 3 and less than 3? So that's going to be my next kind of thing that I look at here. So when Elvis is in goal, and this was a problem, well, this was sort of a problem last year, is that you really get feast or famine with Elvis, right? If he either allows 7 goals or he allows 1 goal. Less that this season, so I decided that 3 goals was kind of my cutoff point. So 3 goals or more. So Elvis has allowed 3 goals or more in 11 of his 12 starts. In only 1 of his starts this season has he allowed less than 12 goals. And that was, allowed less than 3 goals. I was looking at a number and got thrown off. The only time that Elvis has allowed less than 3 goals this season was October 21st in that game against the Stars. Now, Elvis has had good games, right? I'm not saying that he hasn't had good games. Like, he has... It's been kind of an up and down, which is kind of what you get with Elvis. But again, I kind of look at goaltending for this team as a benchmark of, if it's above a 909, it's a good game. So, unfortunately, in Elvis's last 6 starts, he's only had an above 900 save percentage once. But over the season, in his 12 starts, he's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 50% of his starts I would consider have been like good Elvis games, by which I mean above 900. But even a good Elvis game, he's still like the first game of the season, for example, he allowed 4 goals because Minnesota had 52 shots on goal. That still came out to a 923, right? Similarly, his game against the Islanders, which I thought was one of Elvis's best, 3 goals on 39 shots. The Blue Jackets lose 3-2, right? Those were his 2 best games. No, excuse me. The game against Dallas was his best game. 1 goal on 23 shots for a 957 save percentage. So, anyway, the point I'm making here is even good, quote unquote, good Elvis games, he's still allowing a lot of goals, right? So, he's allowed, like, what did I say? On 11 of his 12 starts, he's allowed more than 3 goals. Here's the flip side. In terms of the goals that are scored for Elvis, in his 12 starts, 8 times the Blue Jackets have scored 3 or more goals. In 4 of his games, the Blue Jackets have scored less than 3 goals for him. So what's that? Like 2/3 of the time, Elvis is getting, I would consider, pretty decent run support, right? Now, some of these games are, again, Elvis allows 3 goals and loses. Some of these are Elvis allows 5 goals and wins, right? So obviously it's not just a case of the team wins if Elvis allows the team doesn't always win if the Blue Jackets score a lot of goals, right? But Elvis gets a lot of run support, which is really frustrating because he doesn't always take advantage of it. On the flip side, let's talk about Jet now. So Elvis, just to recap, allows 3.9 goals a game-ish, and the team scores 3.9 goals a game for him, despite the fact that, again, he gets outshot 34-28 on average, and the team gets out-attempted 65-58 on average. Now, Jet's numbers look worse because he's played 30% more games than Elvis, right? Jet's played 18 of the 30 games so far this season. So in those 18 games, the team has scored 40 goals for Jet and allowed 54. Now, 4 of those goals are empty net goals, but what this means is essentially when Elvis is in goal, this team is scoring almost 4 goals a game. When Jet is in goal, this team scores 2.2 goals per game. He is getting almost half the number of goals that Elvis is getting. He is allowing 3 goals a game on average, give or take. Again, my math is not perfect on this because I have rounded up and rounded down. But Elvis is allowing almost a full goal a game more than Jet and getting 2 goals more per game support from the team. What's interesting here is when you dig into the shots and the shot attempts, the Blue Jackets are actually outshooting other teams when Jet's in goal. So they average 32 shots a game when when Jet is playing, and they average 30 shots against when Jet is playing, which is basically kind of in line with the team average. And it's not like super egregious, right? Like they have where is it? I've lost my numbers immediately. Here we go. So they are averaging 4 shots more per game and allowing 4 shots less per game. And then in terms of shot attempts, they are attempting 65 shot attempts and allowing 62 shot attempts when Jet's in goal versus Elvis, who gets 65 shot attempts to 58. So the team actually is shooting the puck more and attempting to shoot the puck more when Jet's in goal. But for some reason, they are scoring way less with Jet in goal. And I don't know, again, like whether this is Jet has played more difficult games. Like again, looking at the schedule, if I can pull it up real quick, Jets had 2 games against the Washington Capitals so far. Lead the division. He played last night against the Carolina Hurricanes. He played both games against the Oilers, which is really high octane high event hockey. Elvis has also played some tough games, right? Like Elvis played that Colorado game early in the season. He played a Winnipeg game. He's got a Washington game under his belt. But so I don't think it's necessarily that the team is giving Jet the quote unquote easy games, but it is wild to me that that the shots and the shot attempts are so different to the actual goals scored, because it really feels like whenever Jet goes in net, the team forgets how to shoot the puck in terms of like actually trying to score, because they're shooting the puck a lot. They're just not scoring, which is wild. In terms of run support, again, which is, we look at, okay, well, the team is not scoring with Jet in goal, etc. 10 of his 18 starts, Jet has allowed 3 or more goals. 8, he's allowed less than 3. In terms of goals for, so what did I say? Elvis gets run support in 66% of his games, in 2/3 of his games. Jet gets run support in 50% of his games. In 50% of his games this season, they've scored more than 3 goals, and in 50%, they've allowed more than 3 goals. They've scored fewer than 3 goals. So I do think partially this has been really exacerbated by the 4 games that they just played, which again we'll get into specifically in a second, which I think is a really good example of kind of the bigger picture here of, well, this is what the team looks like, but then you look at the most recent games and I'm like, oh, okay, that's why this is standing out, right? But basically the conclusion that I've come to is that for some reason this team shoots the puck differently when Jet is in goal. And again, this might be a case of Jet faces more starters than Elvis does. It might be a case of, again, Jet gets the first half of the back-to-back when they've got fresh legs, which is not always true. But, there's probably a bunch of little things, but I was really surprised to find that actually the team plays better in front of Jet in terms of generating offense and just doesn't actually do anything with that offense generation. So I want to talk about the 4 most recent games. So the Detroit game, the Panthers game, the Capitals game, and the Hurricanes game that happened last night. So we'll do all that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about Monarch. Holidays are amazing, but they can get overwhelming fast. Travel, gift, parties, year-end expenses. It's really easy to lose track of your money this time of year. That's exactly why Monarch has become such a game changer for me. If you want to keep your finances under control this holiday season, you need to be using Monarch. It's been rated Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025, and it's the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, simple dashboard. That holiday spending category can become a lifesaver, which means you can see exactly what's left in your gift and travel budget in real time. In minutes, you can check your net worth, you can link all your accounts, and keep track of contributions before deadlines. And it makes these money check-ins simple. Just a minute or two each and you're completely up to speed. You don't have to keep a million spreadsheets like I used to and go from your banking app to a budgeting app to a spreadsheet back to your banking app. Like, you can do everything on Monarch. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com in your browser for 50% off your first year. It's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. So I wanted to talk about, I've gone through the bigger picture, right? Which, the short version is this team does play different with Jet in net. And I haven't quite pinned down what exactly makes the team play better. I suspect partially it might be puck freeze related, like stoppage in play related and face-off related, because I feel like Jet freezes the puck a lot more. Elvis does a lot of rebounds. Elvis also loves to play the puck a lot more than Jet does, I think. I feel like, and again, that might be recency bias on my part, but, all of these things will contribute to offense generation and, whether or not this team has the puck or whether or not they just kind of get stuck in their own zone for a million years like they did last night against the Carolinas against the Hurricanes, who are admittedly a very good puck possession team, and they showed it last night. Now, I wanted to kind of just finish off here by talking about why this has looked so brutal recently, because in the last 4 games, Elvis played 2 and Jet played 2. Elvis has 1 win, 1 overtime win, I believe. No, a shootout win. And 1 overtime loss. Jet has 2 regulation losses. Now, that makes, I hear you saying, that all makes sense, right? The Blue Jackets played better teams in the most recent games. It makes sense that they lost them. However, I pulled up, I don't remember exactly when I pulled this up. It was sometime last night. It was on Twitter. And I looked it up. And in Elvis's last 2 games, which were the Detroit game and the Florida Panthers game, he allowed 12 goals on 73 shots. In Jet's last 2 games, which was last night against the Hurricanes and the game against the Capitals, he actually ended up allowing 4 goals on 60-something shots. I Should have pulled it up, and I didn't. My stats are a little bit outdated because this was before the game finished. So in 67, okay, on 67 shots, Jet allowed 4 goals versus Elvis's 12 goals on 73 shots. Again, Elvis was 1-0-1, Jet was 0-2-0. The team scored 11 goals for Elvis in his last 2 games. Plus there was that shootout win. They scored 2 goals total. Nope, that's a lie. They scored 1 goal in the last 2 games for Jet Greaves. That, I think, is why it's so, like, egregious right now, is you look and I'm like, okay, well, Elvis allowed 12 goals, but the team scored 11 goals. Jet allowed 4 goals, and the team scored 1 goal. That, to me, is just... It makes me wonder, and I don't necessarily think that this should have happened, but what happens if you play Elvis in either of those... Sorry, if you play Jet in either of those 2 games? And I understand the logic behind putting Elvis in against the Panthers and putting Jet in against the Capitals, because you want to have your best shot to win the game against the Capitals. But, like, if Jet plays that Panthers game, does he allow 7 goals on whatever it was, 30-something shots? If he plays that Red Wings game, does he allow 5 goals on 40 shots? Like, possibly. I'm not saying that Jet is perfect, right? Jet has certainly had games this season. Like I said, he's had 10 games so far this season out of his 18 where he's allowed more than 3 goals, right? Or 3 goals or more. But it looks really, really bad when you really zoom in on this little stretch of 4 games. And the games are not going to get any easier from here, right? Like, yes, these 2 games probably should have been scheduled losses. Again, Carolina's a very good team. The Blue Jackets haven't won in Carolina since, like, 2021. Washington's a very good team. The Blue Jackets haven't beat them yet this season, and the goalie is unbelievable, right? But you should have won that game against the Panthers. You should have won that game. Like, they did win the game against the Red Wings, but you shouldn't have given them a point about it, right? Especially because the Blue Jackets had to force their way back into that game after being up 3-1. They were up 4-1 in the Panthers game, and then they were up 6-4 in the Panthers game, and they ended up losing that game. So all of this is to say, all of this very long number crunchy, stats consulty, etc. is it's time to lean on Jet, because eventually this team will figure out that they aren't going to be able to, like... And I don't, again, let's rewind for a second here, because I do wonder, again, partially is that this, like, it's a mental sport. It is a very, I wouldn't say psychological sport, but I don't think that's quite right. But, like, a lot of the sport happens between your ears, right? Is it a case of the Blue Jackets just assume that they're going to need to score more goals with Elvis because he's going to allow, 3, 4, 5 goals in a game? It's entirely possible. I mean, again, looking at this season so far, Elvis has allowed 5 goals in 1, 2, 3, 4. He's allowed in 4 of his 12 starts. He's allowed 5 goals. He's also allowed 4 goals in 3, 4 more of those starts. So there's 8. 8 of his starts, he's allowed 4 or more goals. 66% of his time. Again, he's in 1 of his games, he's allowed less than 3 goals, which is just truly wild. Does this team think, oh, well, Elvis has got putting Elvis in net is automatically meaning that, you're basically spotting the other team 3 goals. Are we going to have to just get up and score 3 goals? Versus, do they think that Jet can lock it down and they only need to score 1 or 2 goals to win, which is kind of unrealistic. But, like, that's really the only thought process I have behind this, is that they feel like there's less desperation with Jet, which inevitably means that you get 2 periods of Jet playing really, really well, and then the dam breaks in the 3rd period. Which again is contributing to the fact that the Blue Jackets are the worst 3rd period team in the NHL. They are now, I believe, a -17 in the 3rd period, after allowing 3 3rd period goals in last night's game, which is just straight up not good enough, right? Anyway, the point I'm making here, before I got distracted by the 3rd period, eventually this team is going to have to learn that they're going to have to score more than 2 goals to win. They are, right? You can't win every game 2-1. You're not going to win a lot of games 3-2 either. You have to score more than that. And this team just isn't doing that right now. So, like, it goes back to Jet is giving this team a chance to win. Score some goddamn goals for him is where I'm coming at here. If you're scoring double the amount of goals, and it's not quite double, it's 1.7, I think, goals per game more for Elvis. You need to put Jet in net. You need to give him the reins and let him run. I think especially based on his last 2 games and Elvis's last handful of games. Like, again, what did I say? One out of his last 6 starts, he's got an above 900 save percentage. Whereas, again, you look at Jet, who was great against Washington and was good against Carolina. In his last 6 games, he's got 4 goals where he's got an above 900 save percentage, including that Washington game where he did 973, right? That's mostly my argument here is a very long-winded way of saying Jet's the better goalie. We've seen that. The fact that his numbers aren't better is because the team has forgotten how to score goals when he's in net. And that doesn't mean that they need to start Elvis more because the team scores more in those minutes. But I think the more that Jet plays, the more this team will figure out, actually, what if we do try scoring more than 2 goals a game? What if we try scoring more than 1 goal a game? Just as a wild concept. The last time they scored more than 3 goals for Jet was November 13th, which was the game in Edmonton. The 5-4 win in Edmonton. That was the last time this team scored more than 3 goals for Jet. Since then, they have scored 1 goal and lost in a shootout, 1 goal and 1 in a shootout, 3 goals and 1, 3 goals and lost, 1 goal lost, 3 goals lost, 0 goals lost, 1 goal lost. So in the, what did I say? That's his last 6 games. If I'm not mistaken, I am mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In the 8 games since that Edmonton game where they gave him some run support, this team has scored 1, 4, 7, 10, 11, 14, 15 goals in their last 8 games for Jet. They scored 6 goals against the Panthers, and Elvis gave up 7. It's time to really see what you've got with Jet, because he gives this team a chance to win every single night, and this team seems convinced that they need to throw that opportunity away. It's so frustrating, but Jet gives you the best chance to win. That's what all of the numbers say. It's time to run Jet for a handful of games. The Blue Jackets have a game tomorrow on Thursday against the Senators. Then I believe they have a game on Saturday, a game on Monday, and a game on Wednesday. And then they're off for a little while. Let me pull up the schedule, actually, just to double check that I'm not talking out of my butt, because it does happen occasionally. So in terms of like rest days, so the Blue Jackets play Thursday and then Saturday. Then they have 2 days off. They play Wednesday, they play Thursday, they play Saturday, then they play Monday, and then they're off for 5 days over Christmas. Then they have a back-to-back. For my money, that back-to-back should be the next time we see Elvis. I think Jet needs to start, 6 games between now and Christmas? Jet needs to start 5 of those games, in my opinion. I don't know which one you want to throw to Elvis, like maybe the Wild. He played well against them the first time these 2 teams faced off against each other, but you've got Ottawa, Vegas, Anaheim, Minnesota, Anaheim again, and LA. I think you need to start Jet for at least 5 of those 6 games. And I think you need to get points in at least 4 or 5. Like, out of these 12 games, I want 9 or 10 points. And I think Jet gives you the best chance to do that. So, thus ends my goalie rant of the moment. I'm sure it will not be the last. We'll probably be back here doing this again this time next week. But thank you for listening to this episode, making it your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms. We're over on YouTube. Tomorrow I'll be back. We're going to preview the game against the Senators, which I'm sure will be fun and not at all stupid. So we'll preview that. And make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow us on YouTube or wherever so you get all the latest episodes. Did we make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everyday Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network on any social platform and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everyday Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. And thanks again for listening. You can find me on Blue Sky at JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter and LO-Blue Jackets on Blue Sky. Thank you once again for listening. Tomorrow we'll talk all about the Ottawa Senators. Until then, make sure you stay locked on.